Alright, welcome to DC Comics Week, a week where I am forcing myself to read DC Comics. I reckon I'll give up on this theme by Wednesday. We're starting by continuing this Detective Batman story, which is the first appearance of Stephen Brown, Fender, and future Batgirl, and briefly she was a Robert. We have another great cover by Wagner from X Factor. This is issue 648. And we have a decent storyline ploughing along. The villain, Clue Man, has returned to Gotham City, and he is committing robberies in an attempt to take over the criminal gangs. But someone is leaving clues to point Batman and the police towards Clue Man. And that someone is Stephen Brown, the daughter of Clue Man. And this story introduces her to the DC universe. We first saw her last issue, which was the first part of this story. It is a three-parter, and our final part is next issue, because that is generally how three-parters work. This is the middle, and I figured I wouldn't have much to say. That is always the looming threat with DC Comics, and especially Batman comics. But I was presented with an issue where I realised I couldn't avoid talking about the thing I have cautiously steered away from discussing, and I've almost refused to acknowledge. Until then, we have Batman and Robert chasing down leads and trying to locate Clue Man or whoever is behind all these clues that they keep finding. All in all, it is a decent story, but what this issue is most notable for is coming up the dynamic duo lead the police into a trap by accident, and in the aftermath of that realisation, Robert spots Fender, Stephen Brown, and he chases after her. You see, this is the first meeting between Robert and Fender. He unmasks her and he gets a good look at her. Robert and Fender will go on to be a key couple within the Bat fam. Fender will be Robert's major ongoing love interest. He will stick with her through thick and thin. He did have a few other love interests. There was a mobster's daughter who he went to high school with. She was his secondary love interest. She was who Fender was maybe competing with. Then when Fender died, when Stephen Brown died, they teased or hinted at a few different things. And John Jeffries gave us this abomination. I think you already get the hint of what topic we are going to be discussing. Here is our villain, Clue Man, Stephen Brown's dad. We have some subplots brewing about a new mayor and Gary Oldman's job only being safe because of his connection to Batman. Potentially interesting stories to tell there. I wouldn't know because I have never read the ones after this one. We get some great Robert stuff here. This is my favourite version of Robert. He is the likeable one. He is the one who most feels like someone Batman would take under his wing. He isn't some bimbo circus performer or some street urchin stealing hubcaps. This is an intelligent young man with a keen sense of right and wrong and great deductive abilities. This is written by Chuck Dickens, and he writes Batman for ages after this. This was his first story on one of the main Bat books. He will also write Robert's solo series. He'll write Nightbird's solo series. He will write Birds of a Feather. I don't know if there is a writer more obviously the main Batman writer for the 90s. I wanted to establish the writer of this because he will feed into what we sadly have to discuss. Here is Robert. He has tracked down Fender. He has found where Stephen Brown lives. And this is kind of cute. I wouldn't say I am a shipper, but I do like this couple. I like them together a lot. In general, I like the characters both, and putting them together is a win-win for me. So yeah, this is very notable because we have the first meeting and first interactions between young lovers. So let's let the cat out of the bag. They made this Robert gay. An insane woman who couldn't read the room if her life depended on it showed up at DC one day and was hell-bent on making Robert gay. Of course, we have years and years of stories depicting this character as heterosexual and very committed and in love with Fender. Crazy woman decides that Robert is now in love with one of his male friends from Chuck Dickens's run. A male friend who, by the way, was also not gay before the unhinged woman arrived. My belief, my honest belief, is that this was done to spite two people. The two writers who wrote the most amount of Robert's solo series were Chuck Dickens and Bill Swindeldam, both of them being more right-leaning politically. Chuck Dickens very much so. Bill Swindeldam, I am dubious about how hardcore or extreme his politics are, because his long-term writing partner is a trans woman. I take what was done with Robert to be a F you to those two writers. You are now forever linked to a gay character, and I bet you hate that, you Trump-voting Nazis. That is my theory, though. What is not a theory is that Robert being gay is embarrassing. For decades, Robert was viewed as gay. People would joke about Robert being gay and Batman and Robert being gay. And this one stupid woman comes along and validates that sort of homophobic playground shite. And much like Snowman from The Excellent Men, much like 95% of the characters who are suddenly revealed to be gay, it is absolutely down to homophobic assessments. They looked at this character and thought he seemed gay. Robert was once a very varied character. He starred in stories ranging from generic superhero fare to deeper, more impactful stuff. He was Batman's sidekick. He was a solo hero. He was a member of several teams. Now, the only stories done with him for the last 3 or 4 years, or however long, they have all been about him being gay and his identity as a gay man. He has to get flowers for his boyfriend. It's fucking embarrassing. It's humiliating. This is the absolute death of fiction. You took an all-purpose character and reduced him to now only being one type of thing. Representation. Yeah, you can still do all these different types of stories with a gay character. But they don't. It's just him, his romance, him being gay. For something that is meant to be progressive, it is incredibly regressive. The thing that always bothers me the most is that it also destroys and devalues past stories with the character. All his relationship with Fender, which was a 10 to 15 year long thing, all of that is now rendered insincere. Robert was either lying to himself or he was lying to someone we were told he cared about. We also have, I mentioned this in another video, it creates a major problem for Fender. Fender has unfortunately, for her entire lifespan, been identified as Robert's girlfriend. I don't like that. I've said I don't like that. I think a character only being notable due to their relationship with another is terrible. But that was the case, sadly. And now, Robert is gay. So what is Fender? Fender was Robert's girlfriend. Now, she is not even that. Fender, who is a very good character, who has been neglected and abused behind the scenes for ages, now she has even had the most basic of her identity removed. I wanted to avoid talking about gay Robert for so long because I feel like it is impossible to talk about it without someone somewhere assuming it is down to homophobia. But I think I might have been able to avoid that here. I didn't even feel the need to say that I am so okay with homosexuality that the Robert to make gay was clearly Jason Donovan. Always. He is. Why isn't he the gay one? It is not contradicting anything. It is not breaking a character or invalidating their stories. He has barely had any meaningful relationships with women. It makes sense, and it would make the character a tiny bit more interesting. Another thing we have is Fender meeting Batman for the first time, which is understated, and Batman, in this issue alone, seems quite encouraging and supportive of her. Nice Batman is the best Batman. I do enjoy this story. I think I like this issue a little bit more because it allowed me to finally discuss gay Robert, and I don't think it turned out too bad. That is like an extra point in its favour now. Gay Robert is a mockery of homosexuality. You should not support it. It is driven by all the wrong reasons. I'll give this comic a heterosexual 7 thumbs up, but I will also give it a homosexual 7 thumbs up for equality.